Hey everyone, Dan at Ochiko Bushcraft. Well guys, I got kind of a treat for you today. Now, most of you are probably familiar with Horace Kephart, a man who was a librarian back in the late 1800s, who left the city scene to move to the wilderness, the Smoky Mountains, and to live out his dreams basically as a mountain man of that time. He spent the next couple decades living out in the mountains, and he wrote a now very famous book about his adventures and all of the things that he had learned. The book, Camping and Woodcraft by Horace Kephart. It is a book that is very dear to my heart. It was given to me by my mom and dad 20 some odd years ago as a gift, and you know, I just basically fell in love with the book, and Horace Kephart became kind of an idol of mine, someone who had left modern civilization of that time to go pursue his dreams of living in the wilderness and living close to nature. So in the past few years, several knife companies have come out with replicas of the knife Horace Kephart carried, and there's a story there. Mr. Kephart was not happy with the knives of his day, what was available on the market. So he actually had a knife manufacturer design a knife for him. One of those knives, at least one, survives to this day. Ethan Becker of Becker Knives is now in possession of that. And Mr. Becker had an almost identical replica made of that knife, the Becker BK62. Well, other knife manufacturers are also making similar replicas, Esee being one, and they have made the Esee PR4, which is also Kephart knife. And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to take these two Kephart replicas and I'm going to put them head to head, basically a shootout between the two, see which one comes out on top as the perfect camp knife. So let's start with a little information on each. The Becker BK62 is the closest replica, almost identical to the original Kephart. Now there were two original Kepharts, a 4-inch and a 5-inch, and this is modeled after the 5-inch. And it should be noted that Kephart preferred the 4-inch. He usually carried that with him. So this one is modeled after the 5-inch. And it is basically an exact replica as far as the thickness, the design of the blade, the tapered tang, the spear point, the rounded spine, everything is pretty much identical. So if you want an exact or almost exact, as close as you can get, historical replica, none comes closer than the Becker, excuse me. I have to say that right off, that if you're just after a historical replica, then the Becker is the only way to go, because the others have taken some liberties. Full flat grind on this, by the way. Both knives are 1095 steel. Becker's is just a little different. They call it 1095 Crovan, and the makeup of the steel is slightly different, but 1095 essentially very close, very close. The Esee, now they followed the Kephart design for the shape of the blade, the spear point, the thinner spine, but whereas Kephart deliberately had his knife designed with a rounded spine so that he could do push cuts while carving without his thumbs being sore, the Esee chose to put a 90-degree spine on here for striking a ferro rod. Another difference is the Becker uses traditional walnut handles, and the Esee uses micarta and of course a very aggressive tread. High saber grind on the Esee, and as I said, flat grind on the Becker. So a couple things about them before I put to work, and this is the first time I've done this, putting them head to head, comparing them First time I've used them, so everything that I experience is going to be brand new, first time for me. But just holding them in my hands, okay, simple comparison. The Esee is a little more stout. The Becker is more comfortable in my hand. I like the walnut, but at the same time, even though it's more comfortable, this handle is slippery. If it were wet or I were sweaty, this would be a very slick handle. The Esee, not as comfortable in the hand, but the grip is much more secure. This aggressive grip, kind of a Rocky Mountain tread type handle, that is not going nowhere. It doesn't matter if my hand is sweaty or whatever. That being said, if it was my knife to manufacture, I would probably deviate just a little more from tradition and put a handle with a palm swell so it fits in the hand even better on both of these. As far as the spine goes, I actually prefer the rounded spine on the Becker for carving, so that if you do a lot of carving, if you're out here for an hour or two and you're just carving and carving and carving, your thumb will get sore if you're pushing on a sharp 90-degree spine like that. I can carry a striker for my ferro rod in my pocket or in the pouch with my ferro rod. I don't need the knife to strike my ferro rod. So for me, I actually prefer the rounded spine, and maybe in the future the guys at Esee would consider making two models of this, one with the 90-degree, one with the rounded, so a person could have their choice. So being said, right now, because both have their pluses and minuses on the grips and on the spine, pretty equal, 4-inch, 5-inch. Here I would give the nod to the Esee, because 5-inch is just too long for me for a camp knife, and that's what this is designed to be, a camp knife. Food preparation, carving, bushcraft tasks that you need to do around camp. I have no use for this extra inch out here. For me, it just gets in the way. It's clear out here, and I don't have a need for it. The 4-inch, this is my preferred length of a camp knife or a bushcraft knife. So as far as length goes, and as I said, Kephart carried a 4-inch. This is just right for me. All right, guys. As I said, one of the tasks of camp knife is food prep. So let's do some food prep and see how these two stack up. Start with just slicing a tomato. Fine. Actually a little bit easier with the Esee. I want to mention that, I forgot to mention at the beginning, guys, when these knives came, the Esee was razor sharp. It would shave the hair off my arm, so I've done nothing with it. The Becker arrived so dull that it would not cut paper. It would just fold it over. I tried and tried, and it would not cut paper, so I actually had to use a couple different diamond paddles and then strop it to put an edge on this thing. So I was really surprised, but it was just dull as could be. Wouldn't cut paper, wouldn't shave hair, wouldn't, you know, it even had a hard time cutting parachute cord. I actually had to saw back and forth to get it through a piece of parachute cord. It came very dull. But just slicing the tomatoes, nice for both of them. And what is a camping trip? Excuse me, guys. It's a borrowed cutting board, so I can't bring it back too messy. All right, what is a camping trip without summer sausage? So let's open this up and slice off a couple pieces of summer sausage and see how well they perform with that. And I'm just going to leave the paper right on it, cut right through. So first the Becker. Nice. Wow, that was nicer than any kitchen knife I've sliced meat with. Wow. Excuse me, guys, but I got to do this. Mmm. Mmm. Must have when you're out camping. Okay, the Esee. I don't want to lose that. And that's interesting. Slicing the tomato, the Becker was a little bit easier. I take that back. I want to reverse that, guys. Slicing the tomato, the Esee was a little bit easier. Slicing the meat, the Becker's a little bit easier. So why that is, I don't know. But I'm just telling you what I'm experiencing as I go along. As I said, this is first time for me. I saved these knives for today so that I would come out and use them for the first time ever with you guys. Good stuff. Okay. So because one sliced the tomato a little easier and one sliced the meat a little easier, again, I don't really know why, I'm going to call that a draw. Alrighty, let's move on to some carving, and I'm going to give you guys a heads up right now. I'm not going to baton with either one of these. Neither one of these knives were designed for heavy batoning. If I need to baton a small piece of fat wood for my fires like I always do, absolutely, no problem. I'm just, you know, these will tap through real easy. I can even take my hand and they'll tap through. Large batoning, that's not what they're designed for, and so I'm not going to use them in that way. If it was a life or death emergency, I would, but for this test, I'm not. What I am going to do, shave some sticks, make some notches, and just see how each one performs and how each one feels. First, Becker. And the Esee. Okay, there is definitely a difference there. The Esee definitely doing a better job on that. Although, again, I got to refer back, the grips, although they're slippery, are so much more comfortable on this. This aggressive tread, I can tell when I'm using a lot of pressure, I'm going to get hot spots in my hand. So if I decide that this is the winner, you know, and I don't know, we're a long way from there yet, but if this one turned out to be the winner, actually if either one, whichever one wins, I'm going to look for replacement grips just because the handles are a little too small, but this one would definitely give me some hot spots. All right, let's reverse the order and do a couple 7 notches. Use this section of the wood right here so that they're about the same thickness. So start with the Esee. Try to stay where you guys can see me. Nice. Good little carver. Feels good. Yeah. Carves excellent. Okay. Becker, same thing. Put a notch right above that one. Exactly like I just did. This feels really good too. Boy, that's just almost dead even. I really can't say that one is, I mean, they're both slicing nice. Go back to the Esee and take another swipe. That's so even, I honestly cannot tell right there on that. Both went into the wood real nice. Both carved out the notch real nice. Let's try something a little different. Let's try a couple pot hook notches. Use the Becker first this time. Make an X. This is a piece of fir, by the way. Soft wood. Very wet, if you can see water coming out of it. It's been raining again for the past couple days. So we're supposed to finally have a break where that stops for a while. So it's carving nicely. You know, wet green wood. Soaking wet green wood, I should say. It's doing its job. It's comfortable in the hand, like I said, except for that extra inch. As you can see, for me, I have no reason whatsoever to have this extra inch out here on the end. It's just kind of, really, it's just in my way. If this was a 4-inch, I would like it a lot better. But that's my personal taste, my personal preference for, as I said, a camp knife or a bushcraft knife. Either one is that 4-inch blade. Okay. I got the idea. That's a decent. If you guys can see that. Do the exact same thing with the Esee. I'll try it right above it, so I'm using almost or as close as I can get to the same thickness of wood. All right. So I'm having to do, you know, a lot, kind of more of a digging motion underneath here. A little bit different than carving a 7-notch. Haven't really felt, well, maybe. Yeah, I do. Now I feel a little bit of a difference. I was having to push quite a bit harder to get up underneath with the Becker. Yeah, finally. Okay. Now I'm feeling a difference. So when I did the 7-notch, which is, you know, your pressure, the way you're using the knife's a little bit different. I really couldn't tell the difference. But doing a couple pot hooks where I'm, you know, trying to get down underneath more and applying more pressure, I did feel a significant difference, and the Esee went up under and gouged out, if that's the right term. Definitely easier than the Becker. Willow, just to try a different kind of wood. Slightly easier with the Esee for pointing a stick. Same, so it was on the other one. It was I noticed it a little more on the fir, not as much on the willow, but for pointing a stick, the Esee just a little bit easier. I'm gonna notch both these again, just a quick 7 notch. Do it up here where it's a little thicker, and I got to take out some more wood. I'm not going to go real deep or anything. I just kind of want to get the feel overall. Hope you guys can see okay. You know, it's try to keep my eyes on what I'm doing, but keep in front of the camera at the same time. Okay, that feels good. Yeah, now on the willow, as you can see, wow, I'm having to fight the Becker down in there. That's interesting, because on the other wood, on the fir, they were identical. Excuse me guys, I got a few visitors, red and black ants every once in a while will come across the log, and I really don't feel like getting bit this morning. Yeah, look at that. For some reason, on the willow, there's a lot bigger difference. So far everything's been either a tie or it's gone to the Esee. I was now that I'm carving some different woods, some different notches, the Esee is outperforming the Becker, and I prefer the length. Although, like I said, I'm not real fond of this grip, because it's definitely would give me some hot spots over time. All right, let's see a couple shavings. I brought an old piece of pine from home. This is an odd angle to have something up this high, but I need to keep it in front of the camera for you guys. So I'll just do some curls where you guys can see. Oh yeah, nice little curls. So it'll make nice little curls for fire starting. I'm going to have to go back and use the Esee again. Try that same exact spot. So for me, when it comes to making curls, there we go. I was going to say that I was just about to say the Becker was doing a better job, but I just found the sweet spot in this knife. And again, they're both new to me. You got to find that sweet spot. So now that I found the sweet spot, just about equal. Okay, the difference is, it took me a minute to catch on to what was going on there, and those are both fine little curls. That's a mixture there. Some are Becker, and then there's Esee, and then there's some more Becker, and then there's some more Esee, and you really can't see a significant difference. It took me a minute to figure it out, but the Becker has a thinner blade, and it has a full flat grind, so my angle when I'm doing these is actually steeper, and my angle on the Esee actually, with this high saber grind, my angle actually came back a little bit, and I had to use not quite as steep of an angle. Look at those little tiny curls there to get the curls. At first I was trying to use the same angle as the Becker, and it wasn't working, and I was wanting to give the nod to the Becker, but as soon as I found, like I said, the sweet spot or the right angle on the Esee, toss up. Another thing about these two knives, and I'm sure it's probably the same for both, just do it on this piece of wood here. Making a bow drill notch, for example, spear points are awesome for making any type of a bow drill notch, and they're both doing exactly what they're supposed to do. I don't feel any difference. I think what it's going to come down to for you guys is personal preference. I've mentioned some things that I like and dislike about each knife. The biggest issue of all for me personal is the length of the blade. I'm gonna go with the Esee being a 4-inch. If this was a 4-inch and I didn't have that extra inch up here, it would be almost a draw. But when I carved, you know, the pot hook notches, and when I switched over to the willow, there was also a difference in blade performance. The Esee was carving easier than the Becker, and maybe that's the high saber grind, maybe that's a little bit better than the flat grind. Both will shave the hair off my arm. When I started this test, I made sure I did a shaving test, so they're, I would say, as equal as I could get in sharpness. 4-inch blade for me is a little bit better. The Esee carves a little better. As I said, for you guys, it'd probably come down to personal preference, but I'm giving the nod to the Esee. I like it a little bit better. And the only thing is I think I will change out the handles on this and put on a smoother handle. Thanks guys for tuning in to Ochiko Bushcraft. I appreciate it, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Take care out there.